Common and ordinary people believe that the sun is a ball of incandescent fire, yet such a concept is mistaken. Yes, it is a false concept, rooted in a completely medieval way of thinking. That is, in the Middle Ages, people believed that the sun that illuminates us is a ball of fire. This is just a mistaken way that people think, so what can we do? This is how humanity is. Some scientists somewhere suppose that the sun is a cloud of helium in an incandescent state. Yet if this is true, the planets of the solar system would have left their orbits and would have never gravitated around the sun. So the fact that these celestial spheres gravitate around this luminous center indicates to us with a complete meridian clarity that this is related with a solid physical sun. Therefore, the scientist who affirms that the sun is a cloud of helium and that it does not have weight based on his mistaken calculations, indubitably is a learned ignoramus. I ask myself, why do the planets gravitate around the sun? Upon what basis, nuclear or gravitational center, is the planetary system supported? The very fact that the planets gravitate around this star indicates to us that such a world, such a star named the sun, weighs more than all of the planets of the solar system together. Only in this way can we explain to ourselves how the planets gravitate around sun, even if this fact is not understood by these present men of science. We, the esotericists, have marvelous instruments for investigating life in the superior worlds. The astral body, the eidolon, allow us to travel from one planet to another. That is, with this vehicle named eidolon, astral body, or sidereal body, I have transported myself many times to our king star, the sun. Therefore, I know it very well. I know indeed in which way it functions, what it is made of, what its surface is like, and what is found in the sun. Therefore, I can tell you that the sun is a gigantic, enormous world, many millions of times bigger than the planet Earth or the planet Jupiter. The sun has rich mineral, plant, animal, and human life, very elevated mountains, north and south poles covered with ice, as well as enormous and profound seas, extraordinary jungles, etc. Even if this seems incredible, the fact is that there are places on the sun where one can die because of the cold temperatures, such as immense snow-covered mountains with extremely cold weather. However, very pleasant, tropical, warm weather also exists. The coasts, for instance, are very hot, since these are at the foot of its seas. This is obvious. Therefore, all types of weather exist on the sun. The inhabitants of the sun never live in cities. They consider the making of cities absurd, and we agree with them, since life in the cities is indeed harmful and extremely detrimental. Within the cities, we human beings live climbing upon one another within buildings of many floors, or we live in houses stuck to another, and within the smoke of factories and automobiles. We live slithering against one another, hurting each other in an involuntary or voluntary manner, etc. For such reasons, the inhabitants of the sun would never commit the recklessness of living within cities. Thus, they do not like cities. And even though they normally live in wooded lands, they nonetheless have small villages where they perform their scientific investigations. Once, when I traveled there with my sidereal vehicle or astral body, I was conversing with a group of solar sages who very harmoniously hosted me. What is astonishing about this experience is that even though I was present among them within my astral or sidereal body, they could see me and hear me. Undoubtedly, in those moments, they were acting within their bodies of bones and flesh, yet they saw me as if I was also there in a physical body. This demonstrates that they possess the extraordinary faculties of clairvoyance, clairaudience, etc. Yes, we conversed while seated before a beautiful table. Suddenly, they excused themselves because that was the precise moment suitable to enter into their observatory. I saw them looking through some lenses while making enormous and complicated mathematical calculations. During those days, they were very concerned with a very distant system of worlds, which was situated many millions of light years away, very much distant from the solar world where they live. They were very concerned with thoroughly investigating that system of worlds. Thus, at that time, they were planning an expedition to those very distant worlds. It is evident that the inhabitants of our sun possess marvelous cosmic ships that can travel throughout space, so they were carefully mapping out the route and making the necessary calculations in order to reach that mentioned system of worlds with precision. Thus, they were in those days very concerned in recognizing the exact route. Frankly, I was astounded, since the telescopes that they possess are extraordinary. Esoterically speaking, we can call those telescopes tescuanos. A very exotic term, isn't that so? Tescuanos. It is very astounding for all of you to know that there are inhabitants in the sun, isn't that so? Well, you must also know that with their telescopes they can see the planet Earth and any other planet of this solar system. They can see not only our world, but moreover, they can see its cities and the houses that we have on this planet Earth. They can see the people who live in each house that they want to investigate. And they can see them not only from the physical point of view, but also from the esoteric or occult aspect. Yes, they can clearly see the aura of people and the psychological state in which any given person is found, etc. Therefore, they do not ignore the disastrous state in which our planet Earth is. They express grief because of the state in which we are found. They want the best for our world. Regrettably, we have to acknowledge that our planet Earth's humanity has completely failed. So in no way do they want to establish any type of relation with people who possess ego, the psychological I, the myself, the self-will, the legion. The solar inhabitants come only into contact with very dead people. When I am talking in this way, when I say very dead people, I want you to understand that I'm not talking about physical death. Instead, I'm emphatically referring to the death of the ego. So when I say very dead, I want you to understand that they only want to come into contact with persons who already have disintegrated their ego, persons who already have psychologically died within themselves, within their self-willed ego. In other words, they only come into contact with people who do not have ego, who do not have the I, who have freed themselves from the ego. Indeed, regarding this subject matter, they are right. I completely agree with them, because those who possess ego, those who still have ego, emit sinister, fatal, diabolic, perverse vibrations. And people in this fashion introduce disorder wherever they go. Such a type of people who have such egotistic, diabolic conditions could never live in harmony with the infinite. Thus, for such cause, they do not want to have any type of, we would say, personal relations with individuals or people who have psychologically died within themselves, who have not dissolved their ego, their I. Into my memory come some very beautiful landscapes of the sun. On the sun there exists a sea so deep, so gigantic, with very clear and beautiful waters that astounded me. Many times in my astral body I navigated it on a small ferry, thereafter reaching a certain bay where I've reposed for hours. It is clear that in the astral plane one can navigate in some boats. Naturally, these are made of astral matter. Additionally, one can navigate within any, we would say, physical vessel. Thus, anyone who knows how to travel in their astral body can do the same thing. This is clear. What one needs is to become cognizant, because the sleepy ones could never do these things. So this bay seems very beautiful to me. That sea is millions of times bigger than the entire planet Earth. I can asseverate to you that if we place all of the 7 seas of the planet Earth within that sea, it would be as if pouring a glass of water into that big ocean. Think to yourself the significance of the size of such a big ocean. Since any of our oceans, those which we have on our planet, are nothing but little puddles when compared with that immense sea of the sun to which I am referring. Every once in a while, I saw certain marine monsters emerging on the surface of that sea. They watched the horizon and submerged themselves again within the immeasurable depths of that solar sea. Nevertheless, for the Earthlings, all of this is inconceivable, since people of this day and age think that the sun is a ball of fire, and there is no one capable of removing that nonsensical idea from their head. When the sun is seen from the astral point of view, it is extraordinary. For example, a secret path exists that leads to the heart temple of the sun. Of course, it is not related with a physical path, and I want all of you to understand this. The secret path that I'm referring to is astral, esoteric. As I already said, it leads to the heart temple of the sun. It is a path that does not belong to dense matter, since when one approaches to see it on the surface, the only thing that one perceives is the great profundity of a tenebrous abyss. Yet some blazing flames are seen there in its ignote, unfathomable depths. In my astral vehicle, I have descended into such a precipice. I have reached those blazing flames. There, one is blessed by a great being, who is the doorman or guardian of the temple. He blesses us with an olive branch. Thereafter, one continues by a secret path that goes to the heart temple of the sun. In the heart temple of the sun, one finds the 7 Chohans, 7 great beings who work in this solar system. There one feels the flux and reflux of the great life. This is the systole and diastole of the entire cosmic system in which we live, move, and have our being. It can be said that there throbs the heart of the sun, the heart of the solar system. Seen from afar, the solar system looks like a being walking throughout the inalterable infinite space, since it has functional organs. That is, Mars is the liver of the solar system, and the sun, properly said, is the heart. Yet, one must search for such a heart within the very nucleus of that central mass. Incidentally, the most powerful ray of the sun vibrates at dawn and belongs to the Kundalini. Thus, this is why it is interesting and even very advisable to practice Sahaja Maithuna at dawn, at the dawning of the day. As different elementals of nature exist in every planet, likewise they also exist in the sun, where life flows and reflows with an incessant beauty. Scientists suppose that the sun is a ball of fire or a cloud of helium, or something of the sort. Common and ordinary people think that the sun is like a huge bonfire, which the closer one gets to it, the more is one exposed to become burned. Regretfully, this is a misconception. If you climb high to the peak of a 5,000-meter mountain, you might die of cold there. Likewise, if you elevate yourself to the stratosphere in an aerostatic globe, you might also die there because of the cold temperature. In interplanetary space, temperatures reach 120 degrees below 0 Celsius. Therefore, the idea of regarding the sun as a ball of fire is false. The sun is a world extremely rich in uranium, radium, cobalt, etc. Loads. Thus, since it is so immense, it is clear that the radiation of its loads is also extremely strong, very powerful. The sum total of the radiation of its loads produces tremendous irradiations. Thus, the radiations of its loads, the entire atomic energy that these possess, traverses the interplanetary space and arrives to the terrestrial atmosphere, which decompose the radiations into light, heat, color, and sound. Yes, it is precisely the superior cap of the terrestrial atmosphere that is in charge of analyzing and disarranging the solar rays into light, heat, color, and sound. Notwithstanding, as I already said, there is an intense cold in the interplanetary space whose temperature reaches 120 degrees below 0 Celsius. Therefore, the sun is not a ball of fire as the common and ordinary people suppose. And as some scientists presume, but a gigantic world rich in loads, whose radiations, when disarranged in the atmosphere of the Earth, are converted or become light, heat, color, and sound. The radiation of the sun reaches not only the planet Earth, but all of the planets of our solar system. Thus, the atmosphere of each planet analyzes and disarranges the solar rays into light, heat, color, and sound. After this explanation, it is convenient to remove from our minds once and for all those false ideas, and to understand that the sun is not a ball of fire. Yes, many astronomers entertain themselves when studying the aureole of the sun or the corolla of the sun. Thus, they think that that corolla must be physical, material, a dense mass. Yet that is a misconception. The corolla of the sun is a kind of aurora borealis, formed by the electricity and magnetism of such a star, and that is all. The inhabitants of the sun are people whose bodies have a stature more or less similar to the human beings of the earth. Yes, the people of the sun are of a size like the people of the earth, yet their bodies are harmoniously perfect, very beautiful. Men and women live in an insuperable state of harmony. Question: Master, if the Earth did not have atmosphere, would our planet be a world in darkness? Answer: if there were not any type of atmosphere on the Earth, then this would be a world in darkness. Yet in this case, it could be objected that there is no atmosphere on the moon. And yet there are times when there is light, and times when there is darkness, or the moon has, we would say, half light, and the other half in obscurity. In other words, the lunar month is divided into periods of light and periods of obscurity, according with the cosmic periods that already are known in depth and that the astronauts have utilized for their expeditions. Anyway, it has already been officially accepted that the moon has an atmosphere, and that even being rarefied, incipient, it can nonetheless perfectly disarrange the solar rays into light, heat, color, and sound. Thus, in the case of there being no atmosphere on the planet Earth, then such a disarrangement of the solar rays would not exist. Instead, there would be darkness. However, since the dense mass would present resistance to the solar radiations, such resistance would be enough to produce heat. And such a dense mass, when opposing the solar radiation, could become resplendent by the transformation of the solar radiation, and could produce not only heat, but also light. Therefore, in any case, there would be light, yet with unbearably high temperatures.